humans, it's just Martine, and welcome to another recent reads video. I'm going to be real with you for a second. I already filmed this, and I hated the way it turned out. I forgot a lot of things, like I didn't rate them from lowest to highest. It was all scrambled, and it was way too long for the amount of enjoyment that I got out of the books. Like, I talk about books that I just didn't care about for a really long time, just to try and make content, which I hate. So who cares anymore what the length of this video is going to be? I'm going to redo it and tell you about 5 of the books I read recently. I'm going to go from the lowest rated to the highest rated. The first 3 are not really in a particular order because I gave 3 of these reads 2.5 stars. So they're pretty okay. But I'm going to start by telling you about Venetian Mask by Michaela Thompson, also known as Mickey Friedman, which was her pseudonym for a long time. This was part of an international bind-up that also has the next book that I'm going to talk about in it. This one, basic premise, this group of friends, they go to a carnival in Venice, like a masquerade carnival. They make a bet about being able to tell each other apart by their costumes because they're going to dress as their truest selves, except one of them gets murdered. That's it. I had a lot of trouble focusing on this book and distinguishing between the different friends in the friend group. So if you're looking for a friend group book, this is not the one I'd look towards because the friend group was like, nah, eh. Also, there was one character that I never felt like I got answers about. If you like mysteries set in different countries, if you really like the idea of a masquerade style murder mystery, and you just want a nice regular mystery, then, you know, go ahead and read it. The next book that I read, also by Michaela Thompson, was Fault Tree, and this was the last in the international series bind up. This one had 2 mysteries for the price of 1. On the one hand, there was the main character who is an investigator for determining who's at fault in different incidents. So specifically for this case, she was assigned to look at, there was an amusement park, a ride broke, it killed some people. So she was looking into whose fault it was. But then she started hearing from her sister. Only problem being her sister has been dead for like a while. So anyway, she goes back to India to figure out why she's hearing things only her sister could say in the form of letters. There's discussions about religious fanaticism. If you like having 2 mysteries in one, both of them do get solved, and they are indeed connected in some way, which I don't think is a spoiler. It's, you would hope, unless it's just 2 books in one. But no, it's one book, it's a cohesive book. The ending did feel kind of rushed, but my main problem with this, for the most time, it's just like, yeah, this is fine. And then there was one moment that I hated, and that was when there seemed to be a romance between the main character and like her guide when she was in India. It was unnecessary, they had no chemistry, I didn't care about it at all. It took like one scene. They were like, I like you too. Never mentioned again, basically. So hated that. Also, the portrayal of India in this one was a little weird. I just recently read a different book that was also set in India, and I thought that one had painted a more vibrant, engaging picture of India than this one. This one didn't necessarily shed like a good light. It didn't shed a bad light on India, it just didn't shed a good light. And if you're going to tout it as an international mystery, like, I would talk more about the specific place that the mystery is taking place. I think that only makes sense. And they didn't really happen there. So yeah, it was okay. Next I read How to Lead a Satisfying Life by Shiv Harsh. Also gave this 2.5 stars. This was basically a list style self-help book, right? It took these passages from the Bhagavad Gita, which is an ancient text, one of the holy texts in Hinduism, and it explained them, right? And so it told you these 11 principles to lead a more satisfying life. And on the whole, there's lots of wisdom to be gained. And I appreciated that it was written in the sense of like, we don't anticipate you to know anything about this other religion, but we do think that these principles are applicable to everyone, so we're going to share them. I liked how that was handled. I wish there had been more how-to involved in this. Like, it just gave a principle and then gave no way that you could maybe apply it to your life. And that would have been more helpful, because I think a lot of times we're familiar with, you know, the sayings about how to live a good life, but we're not familiar with how to implement them. And there's wisdom, I feel like, in religious texts about how to implement that into your life too. So I wish we would have gotten a bit more of that. It was also slightly weird. It was definitely written for a young adult audience. As a young adult myself, though, I felt like the person writing it was trying to be relevant and cool with the kids, and it just felt a little awkward at times. But overall, there's lots of wisdom. I liked how approachable it was. If you want any insight into a Hindu text and you're interested in this, I definitely check it out because I do think it's approachable no matter your stance on religion. You don't have to believe in anything to read this book and like gain something from it, get some insight. And I definitely think it's important to read across religions and mindsets. So I'm glad I read this one. Next, I read Woe Is Us by D.K. Doulos, and I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. This is one of the books that I read primarily for the narration. However, it's a dystopic sci-fi with a Christian lean, so I had more specific interest going in because I especially find it interesting reading Christian fiction that is also sci-fi. And in general, sci-fi that discusses religion of any kind is of great interest to me. In the future of this world, technology malfunctioned at one point, so there's like an implant that you can get in your brain. Pretty much everybody was hooked up to it, and then this bit of malware goes through and it basically kills everybody who's wearing this technology at the time that the malevolence spreads through. So the main character of this book, she loses both her parents that way, but she's not wearing the technology, so she survives. And she grows up in this like hacker group, they're taking care of her, and then the hacker group gets kidnapped by the government, basically. And so she goes on a mission to try and rescue them, but she gets captured in trying to rescue them, except she has access that the government wants. And so one of the leaders of the government says, I'll make you a deal. You go, you find this specific person for me, and I'll release all of these people that you loved who basically raised you. So she goes on a journey to find this one specific person and help the government locate one of the creators of the technology that led to people dying in the malevolence. One of the best things that this book had going for it was the character Ace. He was a secondary character and definitely a romantic interest in it, but I loved him for reasons way beyond that. He was a canonically disabled character in the book, which is awesome, and also a savant. So yay. So many of my favorite things, disability rep and savant characters. He's really great with technology, and the reason he's disabled is actually because he has the technology, and when the malevolence hit, he managed to swap to a different technology like before he could die, and so it caused a lot of damage to him and his system, but he's still alive. Loved him. There were themes of like betrayal and found family in this. The found family in this book was way better than the found family in like the Venetian Mask friend group. So I'd recommend this more if you're looking for that type of friend group vibe. It was definitely fun. Overall, I had a pretty good time reading it. And last, but certainly not least, I read Where the Drowned Girls Go by Seanan McGuire, which I gave 4 stars. This is the latest installment in the Wayward Children series. And the last time I got a Wayward Children book, it was Across the Green Grass Fields. And that was touted as like basically a standalone in it or an entry point to the series. So before, all the books had been connected in some way, and then Across the Green Grass Fields came out and they were like, if you've been scared of starting the series because you don't know where to start, you can start here. It has nothing to do with the rest of them. The cool thing about Where the Drowned Girls Go is that it picks back up off with the rest of the series being connected, and then it also draws in Across the Green Grass Fields. So Reagan, the main character in that book, gets drawn into this one. But overall, this is a book about Cora, who went to like a drowned world when she crossed through a door, so she's kind of like a mermaid, and something happened to her in one of the previous books that left her in a sticky situation, we'll call it. And it also left her with a lot of trauma, and she just wants to forget it. She wants to forget it. And whereas Eleanor's Home for Children is meant to help them remember and have hope that one day they'll find their door again, there's this other private academy that is meant to make children forget, which in a lot of cases is very cruel. But Cora decided she really wants to forget, so she gets Eleanor to sign the papers to allow her to go to this new school, and she goes in an attempt to try and forget and become disconnected from the voices she's hearing in her head and the nightmares she's having. There are lots of trigger warnings in this book. In general, the series is quite dark in spite of the fact that they're short. For example, Cora, the reason that she ends up traveling to this world with mermaids in it is through a suicide attempt. She tries to drown herself. So definitely be wary. There's also lots of discussions on weight that could be very triggering to some people in this, so just read your trigger warnings before. This also has Sumi in it, so if you loved Sumi as a character in any of the past books, I would definitely recommend this one. Basically, Sumi comes to try and rescue Cora and convince her that she doesn't actually want to forget. And it's a fun, really quick, good book, and a solid next installment in the series. Not my favorite from the series, not my least favorite either, so pretty good. And that's 5 of my recent reads. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below which of these books seems most interesting to you, or have you read any of them, and subscribe for more reading, writing, and college lifestyle content. And until next time, bye humans, bye!